just make a motion to start our meeting here.
Second.
The reason why we're having a meeting today is to go over a couple things, Aldrich Hall and the empty buildings within the district. Some questions came up, starting with the empty buildings, other than Aldrich Hall. I went and approached the building inspector on this subject, and
Let's talk about the empty buildings, let's name them.
How many are there?
okay, let's
The police department.
Police
The old
department?
Police department,
okay, the building behind,
and building behind.
yeah, and then there's the house next door to the telephone company.
Yeah, okay.
Isn't
The one that had the fire.
Isn't that Sexton's? Was that
Yes,
Sexton's,
Sexton's.
yes, correct. Starting with Sexton's, because that's going to be the easiest one.
I thought that had been sold.
It was sold, okay, and I asked,
By the bank?
no, somebody actually bought it.
Okay.
But I think the bank did.
The bank did sell it, okay.
The bank sold
Good.
it. They did fix the roof.
Oh.
The roof is brand new. So, but he advised me, he told me that it's unconformed, which means it's been vacant, the building inspector. That they, in order to do something with that house now, they have to come to the board and discuss it.
The owner, the new
The owner
owner?
of the building, because it's been vacant for the past 2 years.
I see.
It follows a bylaw
Okay.
that
Yeah.
says that you have to put it back into conform,
Okay.
okay? I thought I lowered this.
To conform with
Bylaws.
town bylaw?
Town bylaws.
Town bylaw.
town bylaws being just to inhabit
The
it.
building codes. Yeah.
Safety codes.
Safety
Okay.
codes and the district, because it's within the district.
Okay.
And as far as the state building, I tried getting a hold of Jesse Carter, haven't been able to get a hold of him yet. But we were told that, to word of mouth, that they're looking to demolish the building behind the state, the
police
old
station.
dinosaur building,
No, it's the
old
old,
police station.
it's the old Gingrass home.
Right,
We heard that from Terry last
Behind
time.
the split level that was the police station, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
right. So I also advised him that if they do come to him, that they still have to come in front of the historical district
Is it
commission.
historic? It's a historic structure, the
No,
building?
It's within the
But because
district.
it's in the district, you
It's in
still
the
need to.
district. I mean, I know it's on the map.
I said to
But is
Russ,
it in
I
the-
says, it has to be within 250 feet of the road.
And it's-
And he says, he thinks it is.
Yeah.
Because on the map, the garages are also
But yeah,
they're
it
on the
follows
map
right
as being
before.
in the
it, yeah.
district, but they're not.
Right.
Because it would Kevin mentioned.
And I said that to Russ. I said, Russ, I said, I don't think it may be in the district.
Yeah.
And I said, he goes, I think it is. He says it's 250 feet. I just thought it was going to be 150 feet. I don't know why I had that number. And I said, there's no way it's 150 feet. It's past 150 feet. He says, yeah, it's within the 250. That's what the zoning is for the historical district. So
He
anything
thinks
from
it
the
is, but
road.
we don't know for sure.
No, yeah, we don't know for
Hasn't
sure.
been mentioned.
But anyway, here nor there, I asked them that if they are approached by the state, that they come in front of the board and present the demolition and fill out the proper forms. Okay? So, and I also brought up the fact that, you know, the old police station has been abandoned. And I understand there may be some old issues and things like that in there. And my concerns for that building is that as of Aldrich Hall and the other buildings, if that building is going to be a health hazard to kids vandalizing, getting in there, demolishing, and just being in the presence of that kind of atmosphere, that too should be treated the same as what they're doing with Aldrich Hall.
But the state owns that house,
Right.
right? So that would be the state's responsibility to maybe secure that building?
Well, it is, but it still comes
When you
under,
communicate it to
still
the
comes
town.
under our building inspector,
Okay.
because he's actually,
What, do we have a long-term lease on that parcel?
I think,
No,
no,
it belongs to-
It's still the state's.
it
Yeah.
expired, right?
We're supposed to, when we had it, we were renting it for like $1.
Okay.
From the
Year to
state.
year, okay.
So, any other questions on?
I have one question
Yep.
before we move on to Aldrich Hall about the Sexton property. Have whoever the owners are been notified that they need to come before the building inspector to get into conformity?
Yes,
Okay.
well, I spoke to him about that.
Who,
And
the owner or the building inspector?
the building inspector, that when they come forth, because they have to have plans in order
Yeah.
to do anything with that property, they have to have permits or whatever it is, he will give them our packet and he will,
How recently was the roof repaired?
Just recently.
just recent,
Yeah.
right?
So
The
are they a
auction was
local,
just
are they a
recent.
local owner, you
I
think?
don't know.
Okay,
It could be someone just going to flip it too.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
okay.
Well, it depends on what they paid for it.
All right, well, the building inspector is our conduit of to
Well,
mention
actually,
clearly, right?
we are, this group here needs to communicate.
We could if we
the
find out
most-
who the name of the owner is
Oh,
in the
yeah,
mailing
but the
address.
building inspector is, where we go to when we
Okay.
need something.
Okay, so he
That's
knows,
what-
he's
He's
alert.
when I
our
call-
channel of communication.
That's
Yes,
right.
he's our channel of communication. That's when I
Okay.
called the state and I asked them about certain questions about code of ethics and things like that. If I was on the committee, historical district, and I brought up this situation with the Quirk home, that if I'm the manager, the property manager of the property, and I'm on the historical district commission, am I
Right, you in conflict.
am I in conflict of interest? And they said, are you being paid? And I said, no. I said, I don't get paid for any of the things I do. And they said, well, it's not a conflict of
Okay.
interest. He
Right,
says,
there's no money.
if you are being paid by the Quirk home, or if you're being paid by the town, he said, then there would be a conflict,
Okay,
okay? So in other words, to make a decision on something, if I were to be paid, it would be a conflict of interest to make a decision on something of that,
Right.
and I would have to
Recuse yourself.
recuse myself of that,
okay.
okay?
So you've had good communication with Russ then? with all
I
these
think
buildings?
Russ has been excellent. I think Russ is, whenever I ask him a question, he comes right out and tells me exactly what it is, and he's been very, very forthright, and I really appreciate his honesty and things about, going forward.
So did you go to him about these buildings or?
Yes,
Okay.
I was asked at last meeting, yeah, so I said I would. So I went up there, and then I asked him about, we'll get to Aldrich Hall.
So the old police station, you said to him it needs to be secure or he?
I suggested that if any vacant building is being treated like Aldrich Hall, that all buildings should be treated the same if there's a health hazard and,
Okay, and
but
there was a risk, right?
there's a risk,
Yeah.
right? If there's mold in that building and a kid 13 years old is gonna be cool and maybe have a drinking party in there, they go in there and
Swipes
they're,
him right.
I don't know, I hope not, to be honest with you.
Right.
But you never know. So that was my concerns.
Yeah.
Kids breaking into the houses and, not knowing how the floors are, not knowing how the air is in those buildings.
So even though so that was the question, even though the state owns it, Granby should be securing it,
Granby should be suggesting,
suggesting.
Contacting them.
Okay.
yeah, they should be suggesting them to secure the buildings. My real reason was to go in there to talk to them about, first of all, the demolition of the building, and then we got into that conversation about securing all the buildings.
Okay.
And that's when he told me that the house was sold, and there's new owners of that property over at the Sexton house. Okay.
Did they put on the roof then, or did the bank?
I'll be honest, I have no idea.
No, just wondering.
I want to say the bank did it,
Yeah.
because they're the
They
ones.
might have to sell it,
Yeah.
yeah.
It just looks like it was cut out and patched.
Yeah.
you look
They're
at
just
They
the,
cut out just the
Yeah.
area that had the hole, looks like they put plywood on it, and then they patched
Shingled
it with shingles. Yeah. That's what
okay.
it looks like.
Any other discussions on it? Any suggestions?
Do you have a reasonable expectation for when we'd like to see the old police station secured? Is it a month, is it 3 months?
I didn't have a date,
Okay,
but that's what we're here for.
okay.
Would you want to make a motion to?
Well, when did you speak to Russ about notifying the state about possibly?
Last week.
Okay, and so maybe in a month, we could circle back with, I
Are
motion
you
that
suggesting that I talk to Russ again about seeing if we
in a
can
month,
get
and
those?
see if he made any headway with the state about
Yeah.
securing that building.
Well, that's why I have their number, Jesse Carter's number from the Notch.
Okay.
Okay, he has direct communication with the
Isn't
people.
that the person that Terry Johnson
Yes.
has
Yeah.
contact with?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
She, I think, actually contacted him.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could actually drive up there
Have a cup of coffee?
and find him.
Of course, it took a long time to get Aldrich secured. How many years?
No.
Whatever.
Actually, Aldrich wasn't that close to that. When's the last
Was
time
it a
that you
year?
occupied it?
2012 is when GCAM moved out.
But they still had the planning board in there.
did,
Long
and they-
after that,
Yeah,
after they even moved to the old senior,
yeah. It's almost 2 years.
camping club.
Okay.
It's
Has
almost
it
2
been?
years.
And it's been boarded up, what, maybe a year?
No,
Boarded
just
up?
just
Boarded
less.
up.
Last month?
Last month.
Last
No,
month.
it's been boarded longer than that.
No.
They
Oh,
just
they
did.
just boarded it up.
No,
They put a big red X on the front. It's
well,
just been done.
maybe the red X, but I
No,
thought,
the boards just went up.
Yeah, the
Really?
boards just went
I
up
thought they
there.
were plywooded before the winter.
No.
No. Not that, not in my,
No, they
Okay.
weren't. Because Kevin's gone over and done the scrap wood
Okay.
in the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
all right, but,
Do you want to explain what the red X means? on
okay, you
that?
want to go to Aldridge? Did you want to finish off on the state building?
I move that in a month, we check back with Rush Ducharme on whether he's had any success in contacting, is it Jesse?
Well,
Jesse Curtis.
I'm gonna contact Jesse.
Okay.
I left him my number and everything. I'm hoping he calls me. I hope he's not just on vacation or something. But,
From what Terry said, he's very difficult to contact.
oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, so, anyway, all right.
Okay.
So anyway,
Well, good, sounds like a good conversation, and I think that's well done.
Yeah, and Russ, yeah.
Very good.
As far as Aldrich Hall, that was one of our conversations, and,
We have a clock ticking, right,
no,
on Aldrich Hall?
No.
Isn't there a
No.
60-day?
no,
No.
no.
Okay.
Just to clarify something,
Okay.
okay? The Historical District Commission back in 1979 voted in the Historical District Commission. Okay, in that vote was to give them the highest standards of demolition. And the only people that can actually vote on the Historical District Commission to demolish it is the Historical District Commission itself,
Okay.
not the selectmen, okay?
And not town meeting, right?
But the Historical District Commission was given that
Charge.
Chart, yes. So, when they had that vote, for the selectmen had that vote, it wasn't really legitimate, in my eyes, according to the law, according to the bylaws.
Which vote?
The selectmen took a vote,
Well, they took a vote to get the money to do it.
no.
You mean
They took a vote.
several years back?
No, about a month ago, they took a vote in the select board's meeting
Oh,
to give us, that's when they got their 60 days.
oh, okay.
I see.
to come back, and that vote actually should not have been taken.
Well, the vote is meaningless, is
The
what
the
we're
vote
saying.
was meaningless because it does not mean anything, because the Historical District Commission is the only
the only-
people that can vote on that demolition.
Right.
Correct. Okay?
And we kind of rendered that judgment a year ago or so, right?
Yeah, we did. The other thing too is that on that terms there, that we gave them options last month, correct?
Mhm.
On different things, and we're hoping that they reply to us in a timely manner on what they thought of us. I mean, either giving somebody a chance to bid on fixing up the building, making it secure, okay? Putting it out to bid and hope that the contractors might be interested in bidding on all the work and building repairs, lease the building to an interested party, allowing them the opportunity to repair and fix. Now, a few years ago, an art gallery person, what was her name?
Susie, do you remember Susie?
Her husband just passed away.
Yeah, her husband just.
Gail
And-
just sent that email, and I don't.
She wanted to rent the building for $1, and she would have it as an art gallery, and she would
Do all the
maintain the
repairing.
building. And they they rejected her, okay?
The select board did?
Yes. So there was another option for such that building would be maintained and run. Some of the other options were contact the Veterans Affairs and hoping
Right.
that the organization might be interested in building for purpose of a halfway house or whatever might serve their needs. You know, someplace where they can hang their hat. you know.
Evelyn Susie Slater.
Susie Slater. And the other one was request a brainstorming session with several boards in the town to determine how we might be able to save and use Eldridge Hall, including following groups: planning board members, Granby Historical Association, Granby Historical District Commission, Granby Historical Commission, Select Board member, Building Inspector, Pioneer Valley Historical Preservationist, Elizabeth, what is it?
Rory.
Rory.
I
And
didn't have that.
I think that these options are very viable. They are something that I don't think was considered. I think it's a situation where this building, I understand that they said it was going to cost $600,000 to $800,000, but I don't feel that way. I feel that yes, there are some things that need to be repaired to make it secure, but you know, we've had homes in this town that are far worse than Eldridge Hall, far worse. And they were put together, one right on West Street.
What was the date of this communication where we suggested these 4 options? Was this after this?
At our last meeting.
Yeah, okay, so it was after the select board erroneously thought they could take a vote.
Yes, that was after.
And then we got that packet mailing
Correct.
of that.
Actually, we talked about it in October.
We did, I remember.
I came up with a list. I don't recall
Yeah.
where or if it ever went anywhere. But I also sent that to the select board after that meeting to say, I made this in October, and there are plenty of viable options on the ones that I also gave, and they don't necessarily include all of that.
Okay,
But I was also looking at some of the state programs that do curatorship of some abandoned properties right in the state forests, and they allow people to come in. Now they have to have certain monetary
License.
means,
Yeah.
but they can come in, make a bid, and they can live there for 30 years and repair the building. The only stipulation is if anybody comes and asks to use their bathroom, it is still considered a state property even though you're using it as a private residence.
I see.
But that's how the state has gotten a lot of their historical buildings in like Irving, down in the Berkshires, how they've gotten them repaired or restored.
And so an individual interested in going into this sort of curator role
Correct.
would
They
get it
can
at
have
really at a
long-term
bargain,
lease,
right?
long-term
And they do the
lease,
repair
And they do the repair.
to specs,
To
right?
spec,
Okay.
yes. So I mean, the town is quite capable of doing that too.
It's just a matter of
Desire.
if you want to.
Right.
And if you don't want to, you're not going to do it.
You're not
So-
going to do any of it.
So that brings me to that suggestion that you had brought up to before, is that maybe they should allow a person from the Historical Commission and a person from the Historical District Commission to take over the building,
Manage that.
to manage that building and try to get these contractors in line to try to see if they can put out bids to see how much it would cost to fix up the building and get it living again.
Mhm.
Okay, and if we can get it moving again, then, you know, if somebody were to buy it or somebody were to use it, I mean, there's potential tax money there. And if you knock it down, you don't have no potential tax money. So it can be used, and it's the one thing that I said to the town was that it's a viable piece of property from where it's totally located. It's the first building in the Historical District Commission coming around the corner. It's the first building you see, and then it's the last building you see going up
Leaving.
north. And it's to me, people say it's not a very attractive building, but I look at it like that's Aldridge. You know, that's what when I came to Granby, I fell in love with the fact that the church, the Kellogg Hall, you know, all those buildings that were located on Center Street, I really like the area.
Has any part of Aldrich been muddled more recent times that if you looked at originals, it's a lovely building, but maybe some people think it just isn't as dramatic as Kellogg Hall. Is there any part of the front of that building, like,
They closed it in, I think.
Yeah, they did.
So-
The porch there,
Yes, there is.
so they closed in the porch, I think.
so if one were to bring it back to what it originally looked like, maybe people, I think that's a superficial argument, it's just not a lovely building, okay, but,
Well, I don't just look at it as the building, I look at the person of the building, what they, I think it was back in the 60s, they were supposed to make that like a playground, put a pool in the back, put things all over the place.
is that
That
what
was
was
voted by
deeded
the
to the
town.
town?
And
The
that was-
house had already been deeded to the town?
Yeah, they were required within 2 years of having it deeded to come up with a plan. Were you around at that time?
In the 60s.
I
Yeah,
was around, but I wasn't on the commission.
yeah. So they came up with a plan, that's the plan that they gave
A
us.
playground?
Right, a playground, a pool, all that kind of.
Like a community center?
Community center, right, and
Community,
it was
yeah.
supposed to be used as that, and it was voted by the town to do that, and it never happened.
Mhm.
And it was voted by the town, so when, I don't know, it's like, you can't pick and choose what you want to do and what not to do. I mean, so, but here nor there,
Okay.
today's.
That was
right
it.
Where are
now,
we at?
Where we're at today is that, what do we do? I mean, I think that the letter that
Have
we
they
sent,
have they responded to the
they have
letter?
not responded to our letter. I think it's something that, I think we need a follow-up letter to them saying that our suggestions of what we think we should be able to do, and I think we all should put it in there that if the select board does not want to manage the building, that they allow the historical district commission, the historical commission, I don't know if
Historic Association?
Granby
I don't know if the
Historical.
I don't think
historical
they would-
association.
no, it's
out of their
at this
purview.
point is
Yeah, they would.
willing to take.
No,
on
I don't
the
think
other
so.
buildings. Yeah.
I would say that give them.
And I don't
power.
think GPS is, I think their hands are full with Kellogg.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but get those people involved and have them manage the property and try to.
Who's them?
Huh?
Who's them?
The Historical District Commission and the Historical
Commission.
To assign
Manage.
them to manage. the
So that's us.
That's us
That's
or
us, somebody
or
from
the
our board,
larger
and somebody from the Historical Commission.
commission.
And that's Terry Johnson.
That's me and Terry
You,
Johnson.
Terry.
Yeah.
Cindy Gasperry
Yeah.
and Meg Lacasse.
So the red X,
So the second letter you want to say what?
response to our letter, following
Yeah,
following
What's
our
happening?
suggestions.
yeah.
What about our suggestions?
Yeah.
And that if they don't want
March
to.
19th.
And a second thing would be if the select board does not want to manage the building, then allow
Some other entity.
some other entity to
Come forth.
come forth and manage that building, such as Historical District Commission and the Historical Commission.
So you're offering that
Yes.
option?
Mhm.
I think we should take a vote if we want to do that.
Can I just say something?
Rather than just say, I think we need to have
Well,
a
you
vote
have to-
in
we
full
have
committee that we approve.
We should probably take a vote.
Because if
Grin, you gotta bear it.
that's a big responsibility
It is.
to put upon us to manage it. What does that mean to manage it?
It means
You
to
know.
market it and try and
Market it
maybe
and try
post
to
it.
post it to see if contractors will
Or
come
does that
forward.
mean to pay the insurance and to pay for the,
No, the town
Town.
assumes the
so
responsibility for
you're just
that.
asking us to manage it?
Manage it, that's it.
It's a way to keep it from falling into further
Well, I
disrepair and
understand
bringing
that.
it back. And then if it becomes revenue making, fast forward, the town may say, no, maybe can they sell it? Or no, the deed says it has to be.
You know,
Long-term
actually,
lease.
I think there's some interpretation of the deed that needs to be made too, because it says you can take this property at any point in time to the town meeting and present an option, and if they vote on it,
Does that option include demolition?
no,
Okay.
not the
Okay,
demolition.
fine, but other use of the
Other
building.
use of the
Okay.
property, yes.
Okay.
I think before we put that in a letter, we should your group needs to vote on it. They would approve
Well,
doing this.
the first thing I think we should do is invite them to our meeting, and I thought we had tried to get a combined meeting to see where they're at and what they're willing to do,
Well,
because
that
if
was
they're
in this,
not,
that was in this letter, and we haven't heard from them. That's what the letter said.
To have a
did
meeting.
we invite
To
them
convene
to
a
a
meeting.
meeting?
We said we wanted, whatever it said there.
I think we mentioned at their meeting that we would like to.
Yeah, and then I got an email asking me different questions, and I said, well,
It says, request a brainstorming session with several boards in town to determine how we might save and use Aldrich Hall. Include the following groups: Planning Board member, Granby Historic Association, Granby Historic District Commission, Granby Historic Commission, Select Board member, Building Inspector, Pioneer Valley Historical Preservationist, Elizabeth.
okay, but the question is, are we responsible for creating the meeting, or are you leaving it up to the select
Select
board?
I think we were leaving it up to the select.
And I think when you
See,
do
I don't
that,
think
I think when you do that, you get
select-
no reaction. So,
Well, then,
how about, maybe one of our next steps is to reach out to these different organizations and see if they have buy-in, if they would be willing to sit down in a room with this and be open to the idea of brainstorming and possibly being a lead organization on how to manage Aldrich Hall for different use. And if they say, we think we're interested as opposed to we're absolutely not interested, let's approach the select board with these other entities and say, let's pick a date and sit down. I mean, that's the only way we're going to get some movement.
Because they wanted us to go again to their meeting, and I said, you know, you have so many things on your agenda. How much time are you willing to devote to this? If you come to one of our meetings where that's all we're talking about, then we'll get somewhere. But this, going to theirs and only getting 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we're not getting anywhere.
No. Yeah, it's not an ideal set of conditions or situations to discuss something that's really been stuck in limbo and sort of with a dire prognosis. Even though we know they don't have the authority to decide on demolishing a building, there's a lot of saber rattling, I think, from them, and that they'll take it to town meeting, and because it doesn't jive with maybe the plans that someone had.
I think the follow-up to this letter would be a direct contact.
Okay, that would be the thing to do.
You know, I mean, I think we can write another letter and they can just put it over here on the side of the table. So perhaps to follow up with what Terry's saying, maybe you need to go to one of the selectmen and say, when can we meet? Can you know, when can we meet with one of your select members and all those representatives? I mean, it's fine to reach out to them all, but I don't know who has time to go and talk to each one. Just tell them we're having a group meeting and have them come and see what the consensus is. Unless,
Well, I think we should be more than just the local historic district commission. There needs to be at least one other entity, and it's not the historic association. I'm fairly sure of that. My hunch.
Yeah.
But the broader commission, I think, should be there. All right. Pioneer Valley Preservation. Is that
yeah,
what you
whoever
said?
was on that
Elizabeth.
list.
Is she the one who came and spoke at the town meeting?
Yes,
I mean, I think a direct contact at this point to say, to put them on the spot and say, okay, we've sent you a letter, when can we have a meeting? This is a suggestion.
Has she been apprised of the,
Oh, she knows what's going on.
with Aldrich?
Yeah.
Okay, do you think she would want to turn up?
And then
Well,
ask
she would be willing to come. She
that
wouldn't give an
letter,
opinion on
contact
the building, but
each
she
board and
might
ask them to send a representative.
give a different
But ask
Do we
Select-
set a date?
We need
Do
to
we
go
set a
beyond
date and
the
time?
Pioneer
Well, I
Valley
would ask
list,
them
maybe to
when
the
the select
mass
board
preservation,
person could go.
to the
If
circuit
they
rider, should that person be
are-
there?
You could have them all. on this.
Nonchalant
You
about
could even
time,
get
then
Chris
we can
Scully
go.
here. I mean, that's just
Okay.
historical commission.
All right, okay. I'll try to set a date, and then talk to Kathy Leonard about sending a letter out to each of the groups that we had mentioned, and see if, for brainstorming.
Do you have the
Of course, she's
circuit
not your
rider?
secretary, so she'll bucket that.
Do you
But
have-
as the selectman secretary, she should be able to do that. I would ask the select person to have her do it, because if you ask her, she won't
Okay,
want to.
I'll ask.
Do you have someone from the state on that list? Or is it all local?
Pioneer Valley Historical Preservation
Someone using it.
Building.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you mention
Chris
that?
Scully.
Huh?
We could ask
See if Chris Skelly would come out from Boston.
Chris Skelly?
Chris Skelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I have his number. I have his number.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had spoken to him a couple times.
I think the more we can sort of mix up the room with people who just aren't residents of Granby and bring in the authority of other jurisdictions, it may set a tone that, you know, enough of this, there are real regulations and they go to the state, well, at least to the state, because we're not talking about national register. That's not a national building, right? registered building?
Actually, it's a local historic district, which has more credence than even a national
Okay.
historic district.
Okay.
National Historic District.
So we gain nothing-
It's just a nice,
Okay.
nice title. It does gain you to be part of the national park system, which has some monetary perks to it.
Well, I saw
If the
your
town
email-
is willing
okay.
to commit to certain things.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
Now-
I think Chris Kelly would be great
Okay.
if we could get him in the room.
Stacia is the she's a writer.
She's a circuit writer for the area.
And I had spoken to her, the last time I spoke to her, I asked her to do an article on the Eldridge Hall. And she said that she may,
Okay.
so.
Well, here's the thing, I actually submitted that as the Historical Commission. At the same time, Kellogg Hall was submitted for the endangered buildings in the state. I submitted that as well,
You submitted Aldrich as well.
at the same time. So
So,
they're very aware of what's going on.
Do you think this is uncommon, or they see this
It's
in many
not
communities?
uncommon.
Okay.
so let's go to the meat of this, what I think is very important, and I hear you speak about it constantly, about the grants that are out there, the money that's out there, and I think that if we have this meeting, okay, if it comes to tuition, that if we have that meeting, I'd like a list of those grants, or how can we get this money to help our town fix this building up without us breaking our bank. If we can get matching funds, if we can get some type of start on things that we need to, secure that building. I know the floors need to be secured. They have temporary posts in the cellar rather than having true lolly columns. That was done by our town. They just put in fictitious things in there
Yeah.
instead of doing it right. That's what caused the problem in the first place. Okay, so if we can get grants for that, for structural, to get that building secure, the first floor secure, getting that second, once we get the first floor secure, it's not going to be very difficult to get the second floor secure. Okay, and all those codes and things like that, they're talking about door widths. Door widths are very easily enlarged. The ceiling in the second floor, take down the drop ceiling, re-sheetrock it, put insulation in there, not a big deal, not a big deal.
The thing you have to remember then, Mike, if you go out to grant monies, you have to follow a certain.
I totally
spec
understand, but
For historic.
But if you're gonna tear something down, like the walls or something like that, you can rewire and you can do whatever you gotta do, that's enclosed. But the walls itself, what does it take to sheetrock that thing? And
Well,
put in the wood over it
We're not-
that makes it
The historic
antique.
district isn't responsible for what happens inside.
No, not at
No,
all.
but I think what
But
Terry's saying
maintaining the
is
integrity of the
The use
building.
of these
The use of the
special grants
funds come with
says that even the
stipulations,
interior
yeah.
has stipulations, right?
Yeah.
But let's find that out.
Yeah.
Let's get a
Well,
list of those grants. Let's
There
see.
is a grant that's coming up in May. It's due May 15th. You have to have matching funds. It is specifically, you can go for it's more or less to do an assessment of the building. It's a pre-assessment. And you can go up to $30,000 for that, but you have to have someone write up the grant that knows how much it's going to cost to even do an assessment. And that would give you what actually needs to be done in the building,
The
plus it
assessment would, okay.
yeah, and it would tell you what's wrong with it, and historically what you need to do. And then you need to develop a plan as to how you're going to restore it.
For the grant application?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Chris
That's just for the application.
Skelly. He's a
It-
person that we should
Probably
contact.
too short notice.
It is short, we don't have a lot of time.
It just came out.
Okay.
It just came out.
So they expect
This
you to
is-
be ready to
This
pounce.
is just your pre-narrative to say you want to go for it.
Is that something, I know he's not here tonight, but that Dave Carmen could reliably give us a figure on what an assessment would cost?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Okay. He's an engineer, so I think.
He's an architect.
Architect.
Oh, excuse me, an architect. So he would probably be close to knowing, or he could ask a building engineer, a neutral one, what it might cost.
Well, that's what the survey they just did told you what it cost would be. limited, of course.
Well, the thing was, is that with
Yeah.
that, you know, and I'm not going against Russ, I'm not going against the fire chief, I'm not going against Sheehan. Only thing I'm saying is that they're all paid
That's right, it's not
by the
mutual.
town, which is that word that I used before about a conflict of interest. If you're being paid by the town, then the code of ethics is that you can't, it's not something you're supposed to do, it's against the code of ethics. So that's what the state told me about me doing something with the court code. So anyway, I think those are important. I mean, can you go forward with that, with the
I
assessment?
can start looking at it, but
You
I
can
know
look at
nothing
it.
about the assessment piece of it.
Right. I
Because
think
you have
that-
to have a plan. And you have
Okay.
to say, exactly what needs to be looked at. and
Well,
how
it's a
to-
pre-thing, right? You're
It
saying
is.
it's a pre-thing. So
It's a
the pre-thing
pre-
is to get the monies to have somebody come in and give an assessment of the
But
building.
you have to, when you go for a grant, even though it's a matching grant, you have to have the whole amount. And then at the end of you satisfying their grant, tick and tie every single requirement, they will give you the other half back. That's how a matching grant works.
Grants, I have written grants, health grants, and they're very specific, they're very detailed,
Right.
and even though it's a pre-assessment,
You
I
have to know
suspect
more.
you really have to have the whole package
Right.
to get the pre-assessment.
So
You
are we
have to
saying
have
that
the
the
whole-
grants are impossible to get?
Well,
No,
I'm sure-
I didn't say
No,
that.
but
Well,
it's-
that's my vibe. That's my
They are
vibe.
very hard to get.
So
No,
As
how
far
do
as
you-
I'm
so
concerned,
how
let's put
do
it this
you-
way, you have to have someone with a lot of time and a lot of effort to put into writing a grant. It's not something you do overnight. It's very tedious.
what you do is you have a checklist of everything that they expect to have as
Everything they
part of the
require.
packet. And you have to go and you have to tick and tie, just like the 1023.
Well, the gentleman that
Is dollar for dollar match on this particular grant, or is it a?
Yes, it's a 50/50.
Okay.
the gentleman I spoke to that did the grants for all of the Chicopee Library, what he did is that they hired him. He raised over $2 million to build the Chicopee Library. Okay? And what he does is that he does the grants, and we pay him an X amount of dollars up front, like $10,000, and then he gets paid through the grants that he writes.
That's right. You can-
And then
yeah,
he goes and
include
he
your
takes
salary.
care of
I
it.
don't believe this is that. Anything that you use on the grants for the historical, you have to use it specifically.
On the building
On-
and not paying a salary?
Exactly.
Okay. There's stipulations on what their
Yes.
funds can be used for, okay.
Yes.
Well, you don't
So
know
he
that
went
for
through-
sure then, right?
I do know that for sure.
okay.
He went through some other grant program that clearly didn't have those requirements or restrictions. Okay.
Yeah, well, you did it for a Chicopee Library.
Yeah, but that's not the
It's not
historic.
historic?
The whole
No.
historic thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an overnight.
So would you have a problem me talking to him about it?
No, not at all. He'll probably tell you the same thing, but
So, you're going to talk to the select person
Yep, I'm gonna
and
talk,
ask,
I'm gonna
select
talk
board,
to.
ask one of them, ask who would like to come to a meeting. Maybe it'll be Mary, I think she does, versus Lou. Whoever wants to come. And then to ask if they're in favor of the meeting. Should we make a motion to do this? We make a motion that you meet with, I make a motion that you meet with the select board to ask them to set up a
Brainstorming meeting?
interagency brainstorm meeting about all this stuff.
Do we want to ask them to set it up, or do we want to ask them to attend an event that we will schedule, in consideration of everyone's schedules, but it's going to be interagency and there'll be other people to brainstorm with? I mean, the question is, do you leave the ball in their court, or do we set the date and make sure that we can get at least one person from the select board?
Okay, so I'll approach select board, I'll ask them about that meeting. I'll set a date, and then a letter will go out to each group stating, let's say, for instance, May 30th. They have to May 15th to give me a yes or no if they're gonna attend. So that way we know who is coming to it. And then we have our meeting at that time. Okay, So we give them enough time to get back to us. It could be email, which is not going to be, it's right there, it's at the fingertips, so it doesn't take that long. And is it an open meeting? Is it a meeting that all the groups can come in and then other people can come as well?
Yeah.
I would think so.
It's an open meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to post it.
Now, does the meeting go ahead in the event we get no participation from the select board?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
It's a brainstorming session. If they don't want to be involved, if they, don't care about what we have to say about it, then they don't come.
Here's your, this is the grant that is due on May 15th. It's called, there's pre-development and development projects. The pre-development says you can request to conduct studies necessary to enable future development or protection of the state register listed properties, such as feasibility studies involving the preparation of plans and specifications, historic structure reports, and certain archaeological investigations. With planning projects, the architectural and engineering fees to conduct such studies are eligible for funding. Costs associated with the project sign, photography, and legal ads are also eligible for reimbursement. But it says nothing about the writing of the grant. It's the study itself.
So that's the grant.
So you just need, what we need is to get a whiff of what the grant application looks like in terms of its requirements.
So can you handle that or no?
I believe I downloaded it,
Okay.
but again, it needs matching funds, so
And
unless.
what are we talking about matching funds? How much are we talking?
You can go up to 30,000, I believe, for the pre-development. So that means you have to come up with the full 30,000.
And then you'll be
And
reimbursed for
You'll
half
be
of it?
reimbursed for 15 once you get it.
On a different topic, did GPS ever get any sort of, did they get voted that Florence savings? Or I know there's a lot
They
of.
did get some.
They did
yeah.
get something?
Yeah.
Okay.
$1,000.
1,300, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get more.
Better than nothing.
Better than
Kevin
nothing.
said.
You're absolutely right.
Pays bills.
Correct.
All those bills you pay.
Okay, so I'll set up that meeting.
Can you ask Dave if he would be interested in working with me on this pre-development?
Dave Garman.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave, come.
Dave Garman.
You want to call him?
I can email him.
Okay. Now, that would be something on the side? Not, do you have to be at the meeting?
That would be on the side.
Okay. Okay. That's all I had. Oh, as far as the red X, did we get to that yet?
No.
Okay. When I talked to Russ about the red X, I said I was a little concerned about that, saying that, is the red X mean it's condemned? And he says, no, absolutely not. He said the red X means that if, in case of a fire, we're not going in to save you if you're in the building. He says the red X means stay out. So there's no entry allowed in the building. So it's on him as the building inspector. It's part of his job to make sure, it's secured and that it can fall into him if anybody were ever to get in there.
Probably a liability.
There'd be a lot of liability. So that's what that red X does not mean. It's condemned. It doesn't mean that it's no good. It just means that they boarded it up, and if it starts on a fire or something happens in there, that the town is not responsible because that red X is on it.
Is it a symbolic way of saying no trespassing?
Correct.
Can I ask though why there are some other buildings in town?
That question was out. That's why I brought up the Sexton building. That's why I brought up the State building.
I'm not even talking in the district. I'm talking along East Street where you got all those buildings that are empty, and they've been empty, they're waiting for demolition, and there's nothing on them.
Well, that's what I don't understand. I mean, why are we holding Eldridge Hall? Because we own the building? But if the building inspector, this is my perception here, if the building inspector is responsible for one building, then he should be responsible for all buildings in the town, correct?
Well,
And it's up to the select board to determine, you know, that if we have vacant buildings, then we have to investigate these
Okay.
things. Not just Aldrich Hall.
What's good for one is good for all.
Well,
What's good for one is good for all.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, you say if the building were to catch fire, that means we're not going in after you. Does that mean they're not even going to
Save the
try to
building.
save the building?
That's what I'm guessing.
Okay.
That's what
So-
So then every building in town that's abandoned and ready for demolition should have that as well, because none of our fire dollar money should be spent on saving a building they're gonna demolish.
I agree. I agree. One,
So- I
think
what's
it's-
good for one is good
Yes,
for all.
I
It's
think
being
it's-
singled out, it's a highly.
It's singled
visible-
out because they want to give that perception, because
Perception.
my first perception of that was, they put a red X on there
It's
because it's going to be
condemned.
condemned. I'm going, no, it's not condemned.
That was my thought as well.
Yeah, exactly. That red X does not mean condemned. It does not mean it. It just means they will not go in to save you. It's,
And how many loiterers would know what the red X means? You had to explain it to all of us.
especially the 13-year-olds, right?
Right?
You know, 13, 16-year-olds.
Read this before you think of
Some
breaking into
homeless-
this building.
Some homeless guy sneaks in there.
And he'll be illiterate, and he'll have a real problem because he won't know the red X meant if he starts a fire, he's gonna perish. And-
Well, if they have the red X, should they put a letter up there stating what that means?
Yeah, exactly, a glossary.
A glossary, yeah. Read page
Okay.
5. But I don't understand it, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a little
So,
odd. I think it's for dramatic effect.
It's a dramatic effect, it's a misconception, and that's exactly what's been going on with that building from day one.
Years.
It's just like Kellogg Hall.
Yep.
Kellogg Hall said it was condemned many, many years ago, and we all know that it was never condemned and it was not unsafe. We all know that. But the perception was that they wanted something else, and so that's what they made it look like it was. So,
Yeah.
and it's a very beautiful building. Okay. Anything else? Any new business? We all set with Aldrich Hall first?
Yes.
Okay, any new
I
business?
think the empty buildings was sort of new business. because we had-
Okay.
Any other? No, I don't have any other.
I have one question. I read, caught up on all the emails weeks ago, and I saw all the National Park Service back and forth, and then someone saying, you have to, Lucid, you have to be careful, you should have a meeting, and you said, I've been trying to request a meeting, and I don't think 10 minutes of the select board meeting will be adequate. But I also saw that on the courthouse, that the quote, the letter that was sent back in, I think it was October or November, presumably was never received.
Right,
How
Never
was,
sent,
never sent.
how was that letter?
It was just sent.
sent it after the last meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was in our domain that there was an oversight to send it, is that correct? Okay. How do we send letters? Can we send letters registered mail so we have a signature that no one can say they didn't receive a
Well,
letter?
we have to pay for that, so we don't have a.
So we don't have the, oh, do we have a budget yet this cycle? And did we miss the deadline to go before the select
I
board
didn't put it in
mess?
the budget.
You didn't again? Bad boy.
Slap my hand. If you want me to, I'll pay for it.
In the future, I will be happy to pay for a registered letter. And these, you know, we don't need to lose time, people saying we never got it.
Well, it's a communication thing,
I mean,
because I
there was a lot of assuming
Okay.
back and forth,
Yes.
so.
No problem.
That's
I
been
write the
rectified.
draft, I send them to Mike, and everyone wanted to have an input, so I said, give Mike the input, he'll change it, and he'll send it.
Right.
That was,
So just a
nobody didn't understand
Didn't
that,
understand that.
and besides, you know, he has to, once I draft the letter, you have to sign it, so.
Correct.
So if you circulated the letter again, you know, my suggested edits were what the daily penalty was adding up to, and that was 21 days after the chimney came down, and now it's what, 4 months? You should have let me put the number in there in a footnote.
You know, with regard to our form, I copied the Brookline form. Everything on there is copied. The only thing that's different is it says it's for Granby. And I was reading in the Mass General Laws, and it says you can only pick one
Category.
category on those forms. That's
I
under
made-
Mass
Well, we-
General Law.
But I told that to Russ. I did tell that to Russ.
Well, you went back to them, to Nally, and said you have to separate these.
Yes.
And so he never did, he just took a chimney down.
He said he didn't have
And
to.
he said he didn't have to. And
He said he
according
talked to
Mass
his
General
lawyer,
Law-
and his lawyer said that he didn't have
And
to.
who's his lawyer? The town lawyer, or? Or nobody, he talked to his dog, we called the lawyer for the night.
I don't know.
Okay.
But according to Mass General Law, you can have but one type of
Yeah.
certificate on the form.
Per request.
Per request. And those were conflicting, one was for maintenance, one was for demolition. Those were conflicting.
Right, they should have been separated.
On separate forms.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any other new business?
We adjourning 7:20?
Any old business? We're all set with old business. So are we all set to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.